All right, guys, how are you all doing? Just wanted to quickly make a market update video because there's a lot happening right now, a bit of excitement on the charts. So we had a pretty nice CME gap that opened up this morning. So the gap was left at a close last Friday at 9,870 on the CME chart, and then we opened. CME opens 1 hour before the daily open, so 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and then the daily open is this candle here for Bitcoin on our crypto charts, which is the 11 a.m. right? So CME is 1 hour before us. I know a lot of people get confused about that. So basically, we opened up. We had a really big gap on the open, which was about $345. It's saying. So then we had quite a large pullback after that, and really pushed down to close the gap. I do have another video in here. I'll leave a link in the comments section, in the description. Sorry, to the video on gaps and everything about them and why they're closed and all that sort of stuff. So basically, it has all to do with the market makers closing up their trades that might have got caught. Like just say if you had open short trades down here, the market makers would have come back and they want to close their short, so they fill the gap, right? It may or may not be the exact reason why, but typically in almost all markets, gaps like this one, they do get filled. Really small gaps, not as much so, but a big gap like this, I think it was pretty obvious that it was going to get filled. And usually gaps get filled within 4 days. I think it's about 95% of gaps get filled. There is some info on there, I'm sure you can find if you search Bitcoin research. I think it's Bitcoin market research, and they have statistics and stuff like that on the gaps. And they usually fill within 4 days of being left. After that, it starts to get a bit sketchy, right? So I'm not too sure about the other gaps that we have that are further down, and they're quite small, right? So, like last time we came down, filled this gap and then bounced off. I'm not 100% sold just yet that this is going to be a come down, close the gap, and then continue to moon. I did put out a notice to all the guys in Discord not long before the dump actually happened, just saying I think the market's about to pull back. I was getting sell signals on pretty much all of my indicators, and my trading system was telling me to get out. So I took profit on longs, and yeah, I didn't actually short, but I was expecting a pullback because I wasn't too sure about if it did sell off, how quickly we might bounce, right? I'll give you an example of what I'm more likely to look for shortly. So we had this big sell-off which closed the gap, and it was pretty crazy actually because it happened very, very quickly. Within about 5 minutes, it just nuked all the way down. It was this huge pin drop. I saw this happening and on the BitMEX chart, and I just quickly market bought it and got in here. And then after it pumped a couple $100, and I got out quite quickly. On knife catches like that, you want to be getting out. So, but more importantly, you want to work out what is going to happen next in the market, right? And so with plays like this, when you sort of have a little bit of a trading range, I think it's probably a bit better to look at it on the 5-minute chart. But so this is sort of like our trading lows, right? So the lows through here, and this is probably the top of our trading range, right? A little bit of a U-tad up here, suck people in, looking like we're going to rally off to new highs, and then pull it back, right? So I mean, if you were really trading this and you want to get short, a really good entry would have been this one here. So we have the range high here, right? A really nice entry would have been just here, right? So we come up, this is sort of the U-tad, right? You break down and then you come back up and you tag the range high, right? So we have one sort of almost there, not really, and then two. So it's not the greatest level, but it played out pretty well anyway. Come up, tag this level, and then it dumps off to the other side of the range. So when you have a high that gets broken like this and you come back inside it and then tag the level of the high again, usually it sells off and pushes to the bottom of the range, right? So, that could have been a really nice short play in there, right? Trading range and stuff like that we cover pretty in-depthly in one of the sessions on our altcoin mastery course, and those are the exact sort of trade setups that we look for, right? So it would have just been like a trade from one side to the other. Now then, when you have a U-tad like this and you break down from what's called, so this is called the ice, right? Like, so skating on thin ice, right? You break the ice, and then what happens is you usually come down and you break through the ice, and you usually come back up for a bearish retest and then dump off again, right? So what we need to be careful of to make sure that this isn't going to be an extreme version of a spring, when you have these sort of, big wick down, big wick ups, fast moving. It's not really a BART action, but it just sort of wicked down and then came back up quite quickly, right? You want to see if it can reclaim the trading range. This is the number one thing. So we sort of had this point here, sort of that one there, but this one probably, let's just call this a two touch, right? This one's probably pushing a little bit. But the level of the range low is definitely through here. And then this was obviously the resistance. So it came up tagged as resistance, support, right? Broke through the support. Now we've come back up and sort of tried to push back to that level. And it's actually rejecting and starting to pull back off, right? So for me, what I'm watching to see is if we can, for the short side, right? If we can hold this level of resistance, I would expect it to eventually dump off and push back down in this direction. So for me, I went short again, just in this area up here, and my stop loss is inside the trading range, right? And so what I'm looking for now is this to continue to sell off and pull back down and probably end up pushing towards one of these two targets, and we have a full reset on our 4-hour time frame. So our 4-hour time frame is extremely overbought at the moment, and it does look like it needs to cool off for a little bit. So yeah, our RSI on the 4-hour is pretty overbought, right? So we're quite overbought on the 4-hour RSI, right? Starting to pull back down after a lot of bear divs, but I don't really take bear divs into factor that much when we're in a bullish market or in an uptrend. But what I do look for is when we've been overbought for quite a long time, it's going to start pulling back soon, right? Everything needs to have a swing low after having a swing high, right? Market always moves in pushes and pulls. So it pushes up and then it pulls back, pushes up, pulls back, right? So we got a sell signal on Nexus here a couple of candles ago, literally right at the high, and then we're so looking for that to pull back a bit. So this can sort of come back at least to the middle of the range, right, and then bounce off like that and go for another leg up, or we have a full reset and we'll be looking in to get a deep long entry, right? RSI selling off, stochastics RSI selling off as well. Things like open interest and stuff like that were also huge. Funding doesn't look like it was actually that bad at the time. So yeah, not too bad on the funding at the moment. All right, so what I'm sort of looking for is this to continue off down and move into the top of the order block here and probably tag the trend line and bounce off of there. I think, if we can get a nice 4-hour entry on a Nexus, or get like a bull div or something like that down around this area here, that can be a really nice long entry. We might even pull back to the bottom of the weekly order block, which is 9,400. So those are the two areas I'm looking to get in if this does continue to break down. If it doesn't continue to break down, what will happen is this will very quickly, and we'll find out quite soon, it will reclaim the bottom of this trading range like this, and it will just be like another wick off spring situation, just with a much more aggressive sell off to trap people, and there'll be huge amounts of shorts trapped underneath here if we reclaim the range. So for me, the next long entry on this trade setup is going to be here on a reclaim and support resistance flip of the bottom of the range here. I think that's a really strong entry, and I'll look for obviously the top, and then we'll do fib targets and stuff like that, and we'll be looking for things up here. Probably 10,500 sort of level would be probably off the top of my head would be targets, right? Looking for things like weekly order blocks and stuff. So there's a strong level at 10,800, and then the next order block, the really strong order block level is 11,500, but I think we might run into a bit of trouble before then. There is another level me and Troy have been looking at intermediately that is just above here. I think I have it on this chart. It's this one just here. So maybe push to the top of that if we do reclaim this trading range level, and we can get into the bottom of this order block and push all the way to maybe 10.6, 10.5, see how that sort of plays out. So I think, there's a lot of exciting plays to come off this. If you sort of missed it so far, you haven't missed it completely. The other trade I did have as well, which I got in just before, was when I saw this dumping off extremely quickly. To me, when I see anything move more than 3% in 5 minutes, I'm going to try and market long that. And I got in at 9,765, I think. So it was around here somewhere. So I got a really nice entry in the wick. And then as soon as it started stalling out at this level here, I just took profit on it. Actually did 2 entries. So I did 2 entries down the bottom here while the market was going crazy, bouncing around. And I always did limits with ones like that, because if you market entering, sometimes you can end up getting in a really bad position and it might enter you up here, something like that while it's jumping around. So limit entered down here, took profit somewhere as it started moving up, and then when it started stalling here, I took profit again, right? With knife catches, you got to flip them really fast. So more than happy to get in and out quickly on that one. So yeah, that's the main thing that I'm looking for right now. This is either going to reject when it comes to retest here. You know, we might have already had the retest. Let's see how it plays out. It is looking pretty bullish still, like it wants to keep moving up. Let's see how that plays out over the next couple of minutes. But if it does reclaim this trading range, which is at the bottom of it is at 10,044, I'll be looking to get long on that, and I'll definitely be looking for this to, at minimum, I think, hit the top of this trading range, and then it will probably continue on. Similar move to what we just had the other day when we had this play, right? So this was our other trading range, you know, and everyone was amazed that I drew this and it followed it perfectly, but it's just the way the market moves, right? You have a trading range, right? You break down from the trading range, shorts get trapped, you come back, you reclaim the trading range, and then you take off from there and moon, right? Then once you get to the other side of the trading range, you flip the top of the trading range into support, right? So was resistance, now support, and then you take off from there. So I would expect an almost similar play to happen here again if we do reclaim the trading range through here, and then I would expect it to flip to support up here and then take off again, right? But that all obviously relies on this being able to reclaim the bottom of this trading range. If it doesn't, I think we're heading back to test the 9.6 area at least. All right, so thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. See you all in the next video.